Inclusive Practices, presented by Chris Ross, Inclusive Learning and Teaching Officer.
This is the Inclusive Learning and Teaching session. Obviously, I'm on the screen. I am the Inclusive Learning and Teaching Officer. Just to let you know that Andy is behind the camera. He's going to be my able assistant today. I did send out all the material yesterday. Today is about the introduction to the inclusive education philosophy, drive, whatever you like to call it. We have got quite a few objectives. The most important ones for me, right at the bottom, it's the promotion, the sharing of good practice, and basically just communication. Okay, so I'm going to whip through this fairly quickly. We're going to start off intros, which we've just done. Then we're going to have a very fast little arty session. Then I'm going to speak quite quickly, get you to start doing some good ideas, some practice, get your hands on. Then we'll sum up, and then we're going to do some interactive stuff afterwards from 1 o'clock. Some of us are going to start doing some practical things on laptops next door, and the rest are going to do some food. And we're going to rotate. And then Andy's going to kick in from 1:30 onwards with assistive technology and assessment. Right, first off then, this is going to be interesting. My background, just to let you know what I am, so you don't think I'm a fraud. I was a secondary school teacher for 10 years, German language mainly, French, got very interested in differentiation, special education needs. Moved out of that, became a disability advisor, which was student-facing, giving support for students with additional needs. We're going to come back to why I was kicked out of that later on. And then obviously I came here as the inclusive education forerunner, as it were. We've got walls around us. I want you to think of one word that defines the word inclusion. And my objective is that I might be able to persuade you to change your mind by the end of this session.
Here we see footage of the session participants writing on the walls their understanding of the concept of inclusivity.
I personally have a slight issue with this word diversity. And I don't want to go into semantics, but this is the official quote from, obviously, Hefke for diversity. And I found it actually quite interesting as well, and Kelly can verify this, that we got a comment from a disability advisor a couple of days ago to say that disability is actually not recognised in quite a lot of things, and it's not even in this definition. So my question is, how far can you take diversity? Could we actually not just sit and write down a load of definitions, like different categories? Would it not be exhaustive? So my question is, can we actually, is there a limit to it? Is there, is there an infinite amount of definitions we can have for it? So that's something to ponder about. There's Adisha's thing, non-discrimination, right? This is something that it's inherent in our society that we need to break away from this idea of disability is the kicker. Was the word over here access? All right? We always determine our idea of inclusion, adjustments, I think was the other word over here. We need to break this concept that it's not just access, disability, making extra adjustments, things like this. And this is part of the inclusive drive, okay? And again, we'll go to the next one. All right, there's always a tendency to go back to disability because it's an easy fix, isn't it? We think, okay, that person's got this additional need, we'll put that in place, that's the fix. You know, accessibility for websites, accessible Word, things like this. It's easy enough to grasp, but we're missing the bigger picture. And I think the bigger picture, and for me, this says it all.
This is a picture of a wheelchair user at the bottom of a set of stairs covered in snow, asking a janitor to clear the ramp next to the stairs, but the janitor is giving priority to clearing the stairs first.
And I find this picture quite encompassing of what inclusiveness is. And I think James T's word was universal. And I think, again, I don't think there's a better example of universal teaching, learning methodologies. And the thing is, though, I know there's some of you in here who's not just doing teaching as well. This includes whatever we're doing in our life, in our workplace, anything. I don't know if, can we read the captions here? So basically, the story is the cleaner, janitor, whatever you want to call him, is happy enough to clear the ramp. He's more than happy to do that and make that adjustment. But what he's failing to see is that that's an extra piece of work for him. He's got to go out his way. There's no malice in it. But the idea is that actually if he did the ramp first, he's doing it for everybody. And it's that symbolism that we need to actually fight. So, how did all this start?
What is shown is a statement by Minister David Willett outlining changes in the disabled students' allowance provision.
My friend, who I didn't realise was going to be there today, he's caused us a lot of hardship. Things really started kicking off in about 3 years ago, when the government decided, right, we're going to change the government funding money support for disabled students. And it was this statement, you can read it obviously afterwards, but in a nutshell, he's basically saying we're going to get rid of all the more complex support needs for disabled students. And that was the grounding, as it were, for the inclusive education drive. And again, you can see that it's actually come from the disability angle, which I find quite frustrating, as it were. So then we actually come to the philosophy of inclusive teaching, and it's this: we've got to put it into our minds. What is the classroom? What is our way of working? And for me, inclusivity means that we don't exclude in an implicit way. And I think if you remember back to that picture of the wheelchair user, he's not being included, he was actually being excluded because he wasn't, getting the adjustment or getting that universal way. So I think that's what we've got to try to grasp, is when students are in our classroom with us, let's not think, okay, they're socially different, that they've got a label, if you were, categorised with them. What can we do to make sure, not to include every category, because we're always going to forget somebody, what can we do to make sure we don't exclude them? Because they can't get rid of that identity or label, can they? Which is hard. So what's the time frame for all of this? I went to a really interesting conference in Dublin in March. And one of the main guys there was Dr. Larry McNutt. He said something really, really interesting. And I think this is something that we need to really keep in mind, that we will never get 100% inclusive for 100% of the time. And one of the ideas, I was in a workshop yesterday, they were talking about is that adjustments, inclusive practice, whatever, shouldn't be a remedy to support students. It actually should be a developmental practice both for ourselves and for the students. So I think when we keep in mind, am I being a good inclusive practice practitioner? We've got to think, we can't do it overnight. It's going to take time. And I think the projection was that even by 2025, we're still not going to be entirely inclusive. So it's a big, big journey we're talking about. Okay, so what do we do? We take small steps in small ways. There's no wrong answer, there's no right answer. All right? And I think some of these characteristics that I've put up, we need to really think about these for ourselves. All right? It is about adaptation. We need to think about ourselves. Most of the people I'm talking to, they're like, oh, we're stuck in our way, can't do all that, We don't communicate. All right? And I think one of the biggest ones on here is the last couple, which is the reflection. We really need to think about what we do, how we do it, and be self-honest. I think that's what a lot of us don't do. And what's the best way to do it? It's the communication. And I think this is the biggest problem I've had throughout my career teaching at my previous job and in this place. There's lots of people running around in their little worlds, but they're not talking to each other. And they're not sharing. Which I think is infinitely sad, because there's loads of good practice out there, but what we're doing. So what I now need is I need to gather everybody together, 3,000 academics, and say, right, what are we doing? How can we do this? How can we share the practice? How can we communicate? And I think what's essential is that us as KLI, most of us, and obviously the expertise from CTEL, we need to go out and we need to be the showers. We need to showcase where we want to be the experts. All right? And can all of us actually hold our hands up and say, we are now completely inclusively teaching? And there's not wrong answers, no right answer to that. But I want us now, as the pilot, as it were, as the forerunner, to actually get up and running. And the way we're going to do this is I've devised this little, call it a toolkit. Now, I want to say issues again. I know I've got issues, but I've got problems of having a device that will measure what we're doing or how inclusive we are, or, as it were, tick box scenario. But a lot of academics are crying out for such a tool.
Here we see footage of the session participants reflecting on the Inclusive Education Toolkit.
But what I always recommend is that when you prepare a PowerPoint, you should always write it up in Word first, and then you can copy and paste it back into the PowerPoint. And if you have the Word document, somebody who can't easily navigate a PowerPoint, who doesn't like a PowerPoint, and when you think about printing as well, printing a Word document with just a text on it is actually a lot easier, and actually easier to highlight as well. So students with SPLD find a Word document a lot easier to navigate. All right, and again, if you think about pictures, when you have the Word document, you don't have all those pictures to print out. Yeah. So you're saving on that. Anything else? Have I not done anything else?
You're recording.
I'm recording, good.
Which is very inclusive. It helps for those who are not here.
Yes.
We could rewatch it if we missed
Yep.
something.
This is going up online, don't worry.
We can also share it with others.
Good.
So that's all very positive.
Okay, all of those are absolutely fine. I've just highlighted some very interesting things. And again, these are implicit because people don't think about this. Using names is actually, I've read somewhere recently that getting somebody's name, just the usage of them, they sit up and go, okay, I've been noticed, I've been identified. And I get that a lot. And I have the capacity to know people's names and where they're sitting and stuff like that. It's a very useful tool to have just in teaching. And I think it does help. I think this is what Nicholas said. Get in-person experiences. It's a huge one, absolutely huge one. I've seen that from student feedback all the time. If you get their thoughts, opinions, experiences, they'll like you. Which is not awesome. Audience participation. We should always encourage it. You've got to be careful with audience participation, obviously, because some people don't like to speak. Some do. All right. And the interactive resources, although I don't think Camille likes it, but actually the little ball thing, it is a proven technique, especially in teaching, that you actually do engage participation, focus, by doing just silly little things like this. All right. If you have a little teddy bear or something like that, or, obviously it's got to be soft. All right. So don't fling pens around. And obviously the last one, getting opinions, getting the thoughts. Obviously that's why, at the start I was trying to get everybody to tell a joke, which sort of worked. The point of today is go away, have a think, have a consult. You're not going to change overnight. Things are going to take a long time. Small steps, small strides. And I want us to actually start communicating a lot more. All right? I want us as KLI, and I think with CETA, with the expertise, I think we do need to start communicating. Get our practice, get our sharing. And I think we should do more things like this, getting together, get ideas.